I'm Tatum.
I'm Drea Jones.
We are going to talk about top-down versus bottom-up estimating, just to give a little bit more detail to that aspect of project management, talk to you about the fundamentals, give you some examples, and when you should use which, and so we'll just start with estimating fundamentals. It's a great step in the preliminary process. Forecasts or approximates the time and cost of completing a project. The estimates break down the time and cost of the work package level. That's typically more used in a bottom-up, but in top-down you can use it based off of previous projects so that you get an idea of where the entire project is going. It should also be based off of normal conditions, and that just basically means you shouldn't be thinking about contingencies or things going offhand in your project. You need to make sure that when you're making an estimate, should be based off of what typically happens on an average work day. And then you shouldn't pad estimates, which goes back to the normal conditions. And you should use consistent time units. You don't want one person making an estimate and thinking that each time unit is a week long and another using an estimate thinking that the unit is a business day. And then when you estimate, you shouldn't plan for unforeseen events.
You use the top-down approach when you have limited information about the project that you are considering. It's usually a preliminary step. It kind of gives you a rough cut of the project cost and time needed. You can make quick estimates using this approach with little effort, and typically though project managers avoid this estimating approach because it can be very inaccurate. One example of a top-down estimation would be for a spa renovation. Let's say they are looking to do a full renovation of the space with multiple steps and different contractors being involved. The primary contractor could give them an estimate based off of the square footage, and they would tell you the cost and the time needed based on the square footage. So you could get a rough cut estimate of a 3,000 square foot spa. It would cost $600,000 and would take 120 days to complete. Bottom-up approach breaks it down to the actual work package, so it's much more detailed, it's much more clear. Typically less uncertainty is needed about the project in order to use this approach. The customer can kind of compartmentalize each step to the work package and estimate each of those pieces and then put them together. It's much more accurate, just overall. That's why it's a preferred method. An example would be pothole repairs within the Chicago land area. We would break it down to how much it costs and how long it takes to do a single pothole repair, which we could break down to the labor, the materials, and the equipment, and then you just multiply that by how many you've surveyed that you need. So that could equal, if it's $1,100 for one repair, that would be $77,000 if you had 70 potholes.
So in terms of which you should use at which time, the macro estimates is the same thing as the top-down approach, and micro is the bottom-up approach. So you want to use top-down when it's just the project is much more uncertain. You want to make sure that you have, if you have more certainty, you want to use bottom-up. And bottom-up can be better for when you know that your cost and time is an important aspect of your project. The customer wants details of the scope, and it's a fixed price contract, so you want to make sure that your customer has a full knowledge of the entire aspect of the project. Whereas top-down is better if you're trying to do strategic decision making. So if you're deciding what project to pursue, or you're not sure of the scope, or it's just a small internal project, those are better for those. And then lastly, we just have some ideas about the cost. Top-down typically takes about 1/10 to 0.3% of the total project cost. So it does cost less than a bottom-up, which takes 0.3 to a full % of the total project cost. but the accuracy is much higher in bottom up. There's much less margin of error, so you're more likely to have a more accurate estimate, whereas there's a wider range of inaccuracies in top down. So that is all we have for you. Thank you so much for paying attention to our little lecture here.
Thank you.